back. I'm going to talk about check understanding 2 from the chapter 10-7 on the quadratic formula, and continuing to follow up with some things that y'all have submitted today, asking about how this whole quadratic formula works. The quadratic formula, we can apply that both and number 2. And the first thing we want to do is check, do I have a quadratic equation in standard form? Okay, so I've got my square part, got my linear, no, my constant part. They're in order. It all equals 0, so I'm in good shape. Look at this one, 7x squared minus 2x minus 8 equals 0. Square part, linear part, constant part, it all equals 0. I think we're in good shape on that one as well. The second thing you want to do is figure out what your coefficients are. Remember, it's going to be ax squared plus bx plus c equals 0. So our lead coefficient, which we'll call A, is negative 3. Our middle coefficient, or our linear coefficient, is 5, and that's B. And our constant coefficient is negative 2. That's our C part. So we can actually go in and plug in negative 3, 5, and negative 2 as our A, B, and C. So we had, remind myself, negative 3, 5, and negative 2. So A is negative 3, B is 5, and C was negative 2, I believe. Yes, it was. So C is negative 2. Okay. And then my little cheater comes down here where I've plugged in all those letters that are represented up here. Stand those values. I get a value of 2/3. 0.6 repeating is 2/3. I also get a value of 1. So those are my solutions for this. But we're going to go ahead and do it this way first. Okay, I'm going to take this and I'm going to plug in all those values. Let's scroll up to remind ourselves what they were. So B, negative, so I've got negative B, and B happens to be 5, so it's negative 5. And B squared, just to make it clear, I'm going to put parentheses around 5. So that's B, okay, and that's also B, so I replace it with a 5. Now I need to deal with A. A is negative 3, my lead coefficient. Now I need to replace C with negative 2. And then finally, I replace A with negative 3 because that's my lead coefficient. Now I'm going to go ahead and simplify everything. That's the negative of 5, which is just negative 5. This is 25. The 5 squared is 25. Okay. Now I've got 4 times negative 3 times negative 2. Well, this is going to be 4 times 6. Negative 3 times negative 2 is 6. And then 4 times 6 is 24. So I've got 25 minus 24 there. 2 times negative 3 becomes negative 6. And then 25 minus 24 is just 1. Okay, so now I've got negative 5 plus or minus the square root of 1 all over negative 6. I'm going to copy that. So I have the or negative. Okay, so the square root of 1 is 1. Or negative 1. Okay, so now we can simplify further. In the top one, it becomes negative 5 plus 1, which is negative 4. Since they're both negative, the negatives cancel out. Negative over negative is positive. 4 6 is the same as 2 over 3. Negative 5 minus 1 is negative 6. Negative 6 over negative 6 is definitely 1. And those are my answers. Okay, so 2/3 and 1 are my answers. Let's take a look at the second one. Okay, the second 7x squared minus 2x minus 8 equals 0. Oh, by the way, I'm rounding last to the nearest hundredth, which is what it asked me to do. The rounded version of this is going to be 0.6, and I'm going to drop right here, and that's 5 or higher, so I'm going to go up from 6, and that's my answer. 1 to the nearest hundredth is just 1.00, if you want to do that, and that'll actually matter when you get into significant figures in chemistry in high school, and physics in high school, so useful to know, but that's how you would write those 2 to the nearest hundredth. All right, let's go back and take a look at number 2b. So our A coefficient is 7, at -2 for our B, and our C is -8. 7, -2, and -8. So I'm going to replace those. 7, -2, and -8. Confirm that I got those. 7, -2, and -8. Okay. So now I can take a look, and these are much uglier answers. Okay, this is telling me that whatever is going on in the square root is not a neat and tidy square root, because everything else will be neat and tidy. It might be a repeating fraction, but this kind of ugliness can only result from something that's not a neat and tidy square root. Those are irrational answers. Okay, now the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to actually work it all out using one of these quadratic equations. I think for our purposes, it'll be useful to put parentheses around B. I'll put parentheses around A and C. I'll put parentheses around that A. Because what we're going to do is going to go through and replace all these things with actual numbers. So I've got 7 for A. I can do this systematically. I can replace 7. Replace A with 7 wherever it shows up. That's a 7. I then would replace B wherever it shows up with -2. Yes, -2, -2. All right, and then D is -8. And there I have all of my pieces. My next step is to start simplifying things. -2 squared is 4. 4 times 7 is 28. And 28 times -8. All right, so the negative is going to make this plus, because negative times negative. Now I'll deal with the 28 times 8. So 28 times 8. 8 times 8 is going to be 64. And 8 times 20 is going to be 160. So 160 plus 64 is going to be 224. Okay. And then 2 times 7 is 14. Okay, so I'm going to simplify this a little bit further. 4 plus 224 is 228. Okay, 228 I could simplify a bit further. I know that it's divisible by 4, so I'm going to say 228 divided by 4. Let's see what I get. I get 57. All right, so that means this is the same as 4 times 57. 57 is a multiple of 3, but I do not believe it contains any perfect squares. I will confirm that in a second. So I'll just say, okay, 57 divided by 3 is 19. So what we got is 4 times 3 times 19. So 3 times 19 is just 57. We're going to leave that as the square root of 57. But we can take the square root of 4 outside of here and make it a 2. Now we've got that. I'm going to simplify -2, which is going to be +2. I'm now going to copy that down here. And since remember the quadratic formula is plus or minus the square root of, I've got the minus version. And I'm going to look for any way I can simplify this first. So, well, 2 and 2 are both even numbers, and 14 is an even number, so I could actually factor a 2 out of the top and bottom. So I factor a 2 out of those, and I'll factor a 2 out of that, and I do the same thing here. Okay, so at this point, it's still kind of ugly, but these are my solutions. If I wanted to round them to the nearest hundredth, I'd get 1.22, and I'd lop off the 1. And since that's lower than 5, that's where I leave it. Over here, I've got negative 0.935. I lop it off here. It becomes negative 0.94. So 1.22 and negative 0.94 are my answers. So here, so this is rounded at 1.22, and the next one is rounded at negative 0.94, and those are my answers. I rounded them nicely. For this one, I'm going to go ahead and plot this one. So let's go ahead and plot it. I know what my A, B, and my C are, so I can just type it in. So I'll say 7x squared minus 2x minus 8. Now, if I say it equals 0, it'll give me those two answers. I'm going to actually make it equal y. And let's take a look at where I have the intercepts. The x-intercepts are at those two solutions. If you rounded these to the nearest hundredth, you'd have negative 0.94 and 1.22. So there you have it. I'm going to stop this one, and I'll check and see making a video for check understanding 3 and 4.